Hey, it's Dave from the camera store. Today we're going to talk about the DJI RS4. Should I say gimbal? Today we're talking about gimbals, in particular the DJI RS4. Now what are we talking about gimbals for? Gimbals are a very cool device that's really hit its stride in recent years. Now a gimbal is a stabilized camera platform, allowing you to do walk and talks like Drew is doing right now, with a very smooth, fluid motion, despite being hit with a few branches here and there. But you can see how smooth it is. It's better than any stabilization you're going to get in camera. You have so much more fluid movement with it that you can achieve some very dramatic looks when you're doing video. Now this is the fourth version of this gimbal from DJI, and there's some trick features to it which we really love, and the reason we've added it to our kit. Right, so this is it. This is the RS4 Pro, and it's a very cool item designed to stabilize your camera in 3 different axes. I mean, it's powered off right now, but you can see that the camera can easily float in all these different directions. So as I'm moving around, the camera stays perfectly level. And I'll show you some of that in a little bit. Now, these are something that you have to hand hold or support somehow, and they can get kind of heavy. Depending on the item you put on top of that, it's only going to add weight to it. Now, the weight of the gimbal itself is 1.6 kilograms or 3.5 pounds. Throw on some accessories, and you're still well under 4 pounds or just under 2 kilograms. Which is very manageable and hand-holdable. Just keep in mind, whatever camera you put on top of that, you'll have to carry as well. Now, what's cool about this is that the tested payload is up to 10 pounds or 4.5 kilograms. So it actually can support a lot more than it actually weighs itself. Now, the arms themselves are built out of carbon fiber to eliminate more weight and give the motors in each one of these axes the best chance they have for stabilizing the camera. Now this gimbal is battery powered, so we have to take that into consideration. Now it's a 3000 milliamp battery built into the handle here, and DJI claims that if you just turn it on and it's well balanced, you'll get 12 hours worth of life out of it, but it'll be substantially less if you're actually using the gimbal. We're finding that we're getting several hours out of a battery and we're getting really good life out of it. It does take about 2.5 hours to charge the battery, so if you're going to be using it a lot, I would highly recommend picking up a second battery and a charger so you can hot swap the batteries between uses. Now when it comes to controlling the gimbal, there's a whole lot going on. When you hang onto the gimbal here, your hands naturally feel there's a little trigger here and a little button in the very front. That trigger is very cool because if you double tap it, what happens is that it recenters your gimbal. If you triple tap it, it rotates the camera 180 degrees. So let's say I'm doing a walk and talk as a selfie. I want to do that. On the side here, we do have our power button, and we have a switch here for several different follow modes. If I want to, for instance, sort of keep tracking a subject as I move around it, or if I want to go parallel with the subject, I'm not fighting it, I can customize it to what I want. The back dial here, we do have a record button. If I want to, I can attach a USB-C cable to the camera, and most modern day mirrorless cameras are supported, where I can start and stop my recording by the gimbal itself rather than having to touch the camera. We do have a control stick on the back here as well, and depending which mode we're in, I can control the up and down and the side-to-side motion of the camera. It's great if I want to change my angles, for instance. Now in the case with us, we have the RS4 Pro, and it comes in this very cool case. All this packs down into it, but we get a bunch of other stuff as well, including a nice handle that goes in the back of here, which allows me to have 2 hands and work with a little bit more control that way. We also have our focus pull unit here, which you can attach and use this to control your focus through that neural dial at the very front. We also have the Raven Eye, which is a pretty cool little device. It takes the HDMI feed from your camera and allows you to display it on your phone, for instance, and gives you some additional functionality. And of course, we do have a phone holder here, so you can mount the phone holder on the side here and use your phone as a monitor, for instance, and you get some additional functionality when it comes to tracking focus. There is a ton of functionality and modules you can add and accessories you can add, but right off the bat, the first thing we need to do is balance it, and this is a question I get constantly: how do I balance a gimbal properly? So when you first get your gimbal, one of the most daunting processes for a lot of people is how to balance this device, your precious baby that's worth so much money, onto this really wonky looking device and make it perfectly smooth and level. Now, first thing I like to do, and the RS4 is great for this, is that when you power it on, power it off, it automatically locks, but I can lock each one of these axes individually. And what I like to do is lock everything in place at first. Mount on the proprietary plate from DJI, and then slide it into the gimbal. Now the first step I do when it comes to balancing a gimbal is I want to adjust it forward and backwards, because that's the one that we're going to adjust the most depending on the lens that we're using, and especially if we're using a zoom lens, for instance. The 24-70 will shift its weight a little bit depending on which focal length you're at. So unlock the first axis that is controlled by here, and in this case you can see that it's too back heavy. The camera itself is naturally falling backwards on its own. It actually has a gear drive here, so I can actually move this forward or backwards until I get that nice balance point, and I can do really nice fine increments here until I get it so that it's sitting all by itself. Now the next axis that I'm going to adjust is the ability for it to handle this way. Now, I don't want it to be a swing underneath this gimbal here. I want it to be rotating around the center of mass of the item here. Now the easiest way to do this is rotate the camera upwards like this and see if it falls forward or backwards at all. Move this up and down and you get it so it's perfectly balanced. So now when I level the camera, it stays all on its own just like so. Now we still have some more axis to work with here. I unlock the next axis and I can see, does it fall this way or does it fall this way? So I need to shift a little bit more over this way. Move this over just a little bit, lock it in place. Now the last one that people forget is this last axis right here. And we adjust that, loosen this up, and see if it's falling forward or backwards as I shift it side to side. In this case, we're moving just a little bit. So now, as I move this, it is pretty well balanced. So that's as much as I can do physically by adjusting this. And you can see that the camera's pretty much on its own without any power to it at all. Now I can turn the unit on. Unlocks everything, does a little check, and goes through a calibration process. And you can see it's doing this little dance, which is kind of cool. Don't touch it. It's doing its own calibration and checking that everything is good and that you're well balanced and ready for work. So once you got your gimbal stabilized, it's a lot of fun to play around with. But something I really like about the RS4 Pro is in this new generation world where we're seeing everything vertical. What if I want to switch my camera? How do I make this happen? Now with previous gimbals, there was always a bit of a problem. We had to buy an accessory plate, some kind of L bracket, figure something out to turn our camera right angle so we could shoot those vertical videos for the TikToks and for the Instagrams, those kind of things. The DJI RS4 has a very trick feature which I really like. Now it's very important that it's still on. Push the button once, you can hear everything lock in place. Now this is where the cool thing happens. Loosen this screw off on the side here, push a button, this whole device comes off. Without taking the camera off of anything else, I can simply click it on here, tighten everything back up. Now I have a vertical setup for my gimbal. The fact that you can switch from vertical to horizontal very simply with this DJI RS4 makes this that much more versatile in this world where we're doing all kinds of content creation. So that's sort of a first look and a basic look at the DJI RS4 Pro. Now we can dive much deeper into it if we want, and I encourage you to see if it's the level that you need. Now what DJI has done is made a very versatile, easy to use and easy to balance gimbal that really improves your shot. Now the fact that they've incorporated the vertical video side of things so neat and easy is a fantastic option from DJI. I, of course, want to know what you guys think of the DJI RS4 Pro. Is this something that you want to add to your kit? Is there a particular feature on the RS4 Pro that you really like? Make sure you leave comments down below. Follow us both on Instagram. Please hit that notification bell, like and subscribe. It's been Dave from the Camera Store. We'll catch you again soon. Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. If you want to check out more of our recent content, click up here. And if you're a Canadian, you want to support local, check out thecamerastore.com down here.